All right, all praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High, the God of the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Peace to you in the name of Jesus. I count a true blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to preach the word of God. Never count it as a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters, I want to get right into today's topic, and it's dealing with the reunification of the Roman Empire. The reunification of the Roman Empire. This is a brief lesson on this kind of layered topic. But what prompted is just reading some of the comments from the last lesson I did on Edom, and people not understanding who Edom is. And then, of course, someone spouted what some say that Edom, the Romans are Edom, or, that's not accurate. Peace to you, Brother Willie. It's good to see you there, brother. That's simply not accurate. Somebody quoted the Jewish Encyclopedia 1925 quote. I did quite a few lessons on Edom. I would suggest that people go look at those if they really want to get some in-depth understanding of who Edom is. But I also got some that, I don't know, just wrote some lessons or wrote some questions and I guess demanded that I answer them or something. I don't know what that was about, but if you just a hint in life. Peace to you, sister. Just a hint in life. If you ever want to get information from someone that you don't have, or an explanation, you might want to reevaluate how you're talking to people. That's just a peace to you, brother Isaiah. That's just a life lesson. It's just when I need information from people about things that I don't know. I'm not trying to be disrespectful anyway, but certainly not when you need something from somebody. So from here on out, as you move on in your life and you need information from people, you might want to consider how you ask the question, because you don't want to have that you basically don't know, and it's apparent. But nevertheless, I want to start off in Daniel, the 7th chapter, and just dealing with these empires, because the Roman Empire is the empire that Daniel ends with in this particular vision of the 4 beasts. Okay, so now this is Daniel, the 7th chapter, and verse 1. It said, and they go in succession historically, if you ever look it up. Peace to you, Brother Marcus. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions upon his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. Okay, so then he goes on to say, verse 3, and 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse from one another. Now the sea represents humanity. Okay, and out of humanity emerged these empires. Okay, and the first one, he says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. That's Babylon. Okay, the 5th verse says, and behold, another beast, the second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth of it between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh. The next one is the Medo-Persian Empire. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. That represents Greece, okay, and it has 4 heads because right after Alexander the Great died, you had this fight for his, it was a power vacuum. So he had all his generals fighting, and 4 came up and split his empire. You had Cassander, Ptolemy, Lysimachus, and Seleucus. Okay, now after the Greek Empire, you have the Roman Empire. Okay, and how you read in Daniel how he's laying out these descriptions, and people, a lot of scholars would say there's no way he lived in a time in which he did, because he's nailing them down to a T. No, it was just shown unto him. So now this 4th one rather, listen to how it's described in verse 7. It says, after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. It devoured and brake in pieces and stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Okay, so now this one is diverse from the other ones. There's nothing in the taxonomy that can describe this one. Okay, so it had 10 horns. You had those who would try to bring this empire back in a sense. Okay, but now, when I'm talking about them, I'm talking about Ostrogoths, Vandals, Hurons, Napoleon, Otto the Great. Let me just read some of them from this book. This is a book I've written for Then Shall Be Great Tribulation. In chapter, what chapter is this? In chapter 4, the rise of the fourth beast, you see it's basically a description of these that will come up. Again, like I said, Hurons, Ostrogoths, Vandals. You see it, Justinian. You see them come up trying to rule the Charlemagne, rule this empire, or reestablish this empire. Otto the Great, Charles V. You had Napoleon, and you had Benito Mussolini. Okay, so let's read a little bit more. Let's go to Revelation, the 17th chapter, and identify just simply where a little bit more about this kingdom and what came even out of this kingdom. Let's go to Revelation, the 13th chapter, because like I said, it's the reunification of the Roman Empire. And this, what happened, we know in 476 AD, this kingdom or this empire died in a sense, but it didn't die totally, almost like went on life support, because it was two-tiered. You had an emperor and you had the Pope of Rome. And the Pope of Rome has made it to where this particular idea, even when you look at the what the EU tried to sign in this constitution, the Pope of Rome says you need to acknowledge all that the popes have done in regard to the unification of Europe. And that's what you're seeing right now. These countries coming together is simply the reunification of the Roman Empire. Their armies, their economies, culturally, politically, that's all remnants of what took place many years ago. Okay. And what made this particular kingdom so distinct was its system, in the sense of that it having the Pope of Rome, and Roman Catholicism still went on, still pressed on, is still going on even until this day, never stopped, and having the sway over millions and millions and millions of people. Okay. But now it says in verse 13 that this beast again would rise. Verse 1, and this is John the Revelator. He says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. Again, the sea representing humanity, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like, just so we know what it was like, this is talking about this reunified empire. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Those sound like the same animals that we read about, same beasts that we read about in Daniel. And it's fitting, rightfully so, because it's simply a continuation of what started with Babylon. And certainly, spiritually speaking, when you look at Rome, they're perpetuating the Babylonian mystery spiritual system. But now he says, and his seat and great authority was given to him by who? The dragon. It says in his mouth of them, and it says, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. So Satan is behind this kingdom that's rising in these last days. So whatever people talking about, they're talking about what the United States is going to do and all this and that. United States, notice United States is not in prophecy. United States is not Babylon, and United States is not in prophecy, and Edom is not Edom is not the Romans. Okay, totally distinct people. But one thing again, you do not see the United States. That indicates what? A power vacuum that has been filled by others. At a certain point, the country. Check the record, man. I've been saying this for a minute, for years. You can't continue. At a certain point, the cup of iniquity reaches its brim. And you shouldn't think that you're going to be on top all the time. Just like all those other kingdoms that I read about fail. You think about there's to be a Greek empire. Alexander conquered the world. People are not talking about Greece now unless they're talking about economic woe. Okay? So we should understand that the United States, as quickly as it became a nation and as quickly as it gained prominence, is going to fall just as quickly. That's just what's going to happen. Why do I say that? Again, because you read this book from Genesis to Revelation, you do not see the United States of America specifically in regard as a superpower. Like you read about the reunification of Rome. You don't see it in these last days. You don't see it. This country is relatively new, and it's going to fall. So now you see the reunification of this beast. He says, and I saw one of the heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Wounded how? Again, died in 476, but it didn't die totally because it still had one aspect of it that continued on and continues on even until this day. Let's read about that. Let's go to Revelation, the 17th chapter. Revelation, the 17th chapter. Here, John the Revelator sees something else coming out of this particular kingdom. It says, and there came one, in verse 1, Revelation 17 and 1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Okay, so now this great whore is not a physical whore, rather it's talking about an institution. Oftentimes you see Israel, she's described as a woman. Okay, here here you have a church. Okay, this is Christendom. Okay, apostate Christendom. That's the harlot here. So he said, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Again, who are the waters? Verse 15, and he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Again, out of humanity emerged these kingdoms, and out of humanity emerges this institution that's described figuratively here as a whore. Now, this whore isn't fornicating. This is not describing fornication specifically like in a physical sense, but rather spiritual idolatry, spiritual whoredoms. Witchcraft and such. So it says, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So the kings, the leaders of the earth, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the doctrine that was in that cup. They're drinking out of a cup. They're drinking wine. And what happens when you drink wine? You become intoxicated. And that's how the people are. They have been intoxicated by false doctrine. That's why when you speak sense to them out of the scripture, they can't understand what you're saying. You say, hey, Jesus couldn't have been in that grave from Good Friday to Easter Sunday. He had to be in there for 3 days and 3 nights. But that's the sign that he was the Messiah that's given. I don't believe it. They drunk. He wasn't born on December 25th. Yes, he was. So you think people say, well, I'm not a Catholic, because this is talking about Catholicism. Somebody say, I'm not a Catholic. Well, if you're a Baptist, if you're Episcopalian, if you're apostolic, if you're a Lutheran, if you're a Kojic, if you're any of these systems that came out of this whore, your mama is Catholic. Your mama's a whore. This is let me keep reading. It says, so he carried me away into the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Again, out within, where did Catholicism arise from, emerge from? Peace to you, brother Nicodemus, out of the Roman Empire. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. Okay? So all that false doctrine, all that idolatry, this is what the people are drinking. They drinking from the cup. They consuming that from this cup. Then it says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Why Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots? Mystery Babylon, because this is just the reunification, this is just the perpetuation of the mystery Babylonian system. When you're talking about Rome, I'm going to read some here. Give me 1 second. See, people don't realize, oftentimes it behooves us to find out where our customs come from, where your religious customs come from. Do they come out of the Bible? People carrying the Bible, but then to the church on the wrong day when the Bible say, keep the Sabbath. They're keeping all these customs that are not found written in the Bible. You need to really check what you're doing. But people are so drunk, oftentimes people get cognitive dissonance when you say, hey, this is what, actually the Bible says. You're doing something completely opposite of that. They get upset. They get upset. They get in their feelings, as the young people say. I'm looking for a reference here. Can't remember what book I wrote it in. But it talks about how Rome was even called the New Babylon, brothers and sisters. That wasn't a secret. If you read, even those of the Protestant Reformation, that was the common thought, even amongst them, that the Antichrist was the Pope, and that Catholicism was apostate. Even though they kept a lot of the customs, one being Sunday worship. But now let's go to again, verse 5. It says, and upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. What's a harlot? A harlot is a whore or a prostitute. Okay, so how is she the mother of harlots? I named her daughters. Again, you Episcopalian, you Apostolic, you Kojic, you Baptist, you Lutheran, you following Calvin, you following any of these. Again, that's all. Anything out, all those that came out of the Protestant Reformation, those are whores. They're little whores, though. Your mother is Catholicism. Your mama whore is Catholicism, and you a little whore. The mother of harlot. That means if she a mother of harlot, that means she got some babies out here. And that's what these Protestant denominations have become. It's one Lord, one faith, one baptism. You got all these denominations. You got all these whores running around here. But now let's find out something. Because it says in verse 9, it gives you some geography. It says, and here's the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now, wait a minute. What's on 7 mountains or 7 hills? You see, I don't know if you can see that here. You're talking about Rome. Here are the mountains there. That's what you're talking about. That's a location. And that's not Edom. You see what I'm saying? That's Rome. That's Rome. The Romans are not Edomites. They're not Semitic. They come from Etruscans. They're not Semitic. Rome was established approximately 753 BC. This is not just do a little history and you'll find some things out. But these are not the same people. But let's go to Daniel, the 11th chapter. Daniel, the 11th chapter. Because we even one coming out of the Roman Empire is again, and out of that organization is the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, or what they call the Antichrist. even if you look at Revelation, the 13th chapter, where it says, talking about what the Antichrist is going to do, it says, and here is wisdom, let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 603 score and 6. Who is that talking about? That's talking about the Pope. Again, when you look at the Vicar of Christ, one of his titles, and he is constantly calling himself the Vicar of Christ. Okay, that's how you get 666. Add up vicarious Philadelphia, you get 603 score and 6. But now down in the 11th chapter, because there's one that's coming out of this institution, who's also a king, by the way, because again, the popes in time past, they had province, they had sovereignty. They would actually crown the emperor. So it was like you had the Pope, then you had the emperor. That's why when Napoleon became emperor, he took the crown from the Pope. He crowned himself. He knew what it meant. The one that's crowning you is above you. But now 36, Daniel 11 and verse 36, it said, and the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. So prior to this is talking about Antiochus Epiphanes. Then you get into this one that's called a king. He is a king. Even right now, he's sovereign over Vatican City. His territory used to be a lot larger. He lost a lot of it in history, and some was given back by Benito Mussolini. And he still reigns over Vatican City, but if you think about how much sway he has, it's no wonder that when John Paul II died, that all the presidents and potentates and other sovereigns had to come and kiss the ring and show homage, so to speak, when he died. You didn't see that when the former presidents died, but when John Paul II died, man, they came from all over. So it says, neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. Okay, I'm going to skip down a little bit. Because it says in verse 40, and at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen, and with many ships, and he shall enter into the countries and shall overflow and pass over. Then it says, he shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab and the chief of the children of Ammon. Edom, Moab, and Ammon are escaping. Those geographical locations are escaping. That's not by coincidence. Okay? So he's going to get a lot of the areas over there, but those are going to escape out of his hand. He shall stretch forth his hand also upon the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. So again, he's going to escape out. They're going to Edom, Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon shall escape those geographical lands, because that's where the place of safety is during Great Tribulation. That's my estimation based on what I read. Verse 43. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps, with tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas and the glorious mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. He's going to be destroyed along with this empire that's going to meet its end. Okay, it's going to meet its end. So now, that's a little bit about the unification of the Roman Empire, which you're seeing right now. Again, if you're seeing the sharing of economies, you're seeing the sharing of currency, you're seeing political ties, you're seeing military ties. This did not happen, has not happened to this degree since the Roman Empire. Okay, and it's happening right now before our very eyes. So many things are being put into place, and it is imperative that you understand what time it is. What's going on? Okay, And with that, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you that we at the Household of Faith, we're live streaming every Sabbath right now at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's on Saturday. Again, right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel, as well as on our website. We also have Bible study. If you have questions, that would be a good time to ask. We do it on Zoom. You can look at our meeting ID number, and you can ask your question there if you have a question. Also, if you've been edified through the ministry, you can leave a donation on our website, www.israelteach.org. I also have books that I've written that are available, where books are sold. Into Egypt Again with Ships, Message to the Forgotten Israelites or African Americans, Killing Black Innocents, The Program to Control African American Reproduction from Slavery's End to the Present Day Self-Inflicted Genocide, Pagan Origins of Christian Holidays, Hair Like Wool, Feet Like Burned Brass, The Color of Jesus and Burning Truths Concerning the Messiah, For Then Shall Be Great Tribulation, and In Defense of Biblical Polygyny. I appreciate you, Brother Willie, and Brother Isaiah, and everybody that's listening. I appreciate you, and it is always my prayer that you were edified.